We were driving home from my Titi Gigi's house. She was my favorite. She was fun and funny and big like me. We were two plus size baddies. And that was part of what made her so interesting. She couldn't hide who she was, big in size, big in personality, big in mind, thoughts, dreams, big, big, big. And she never tried to. My mother, on the other hand, always struggled with her weight and the feeling that perhaps she was overwhelming everybody. My mother loved her because they were born on the same day, 7 years apart, and shared similar personalities, but not the same permissions to show it. When I die, you go with Gigi to Calle. What? I said excitedly. I get to live with Gigi. I began to dance. I could see it now, me in the cold dew of the tetas de calle, hearing my beloved coquille at the morning, mist drifting over me to turn the town into a cloudy pueblo and me, its ethereal goddess. Gigi and I waking up to matching PJs, something she did with my other cousins, and her cooking me an incredible breakfast. She was an amazing chef, and she was fat, which meant no monitoring of my food intake. More importantly, Gigi would not yell at me every day or even hit me. Her descent into Christianity, which through the years would become cultish, would not allow it. My life would be Jesus, Gigi, unlimited bacon, and nightly novelas and matching outfits. Tell me that doesn't sound like heaven. What? My mother said, looking at me. I had completely drifted in my giddy 7 year old joy and kind of skipped the fact that she would have to die for this to happen. I was just ready for the sleepovers and movie binges. She would hate living with you, you know that. You're so dirty, she barked. She was mad. She hated that I wanted her to die, but I didn't really want her to die. I wanted to be free. I wanted to know what it was to not feel every day the shame of existing and the harsh smacks that came with spilling milk by accident or swearing my tone was somehow off. For my mother was an emotional support animal, and my times with Gigi, her favorite, felt like oxygen. I didn't have to emotionally support her. I just had to emotionally enjoy her. She is so mean, by the way, my mother declared, slowly picking up speed as we headed back to Guayanilla. It was as if she wanted to evaporate home and cry into a pillow. If my father clutched to the idea that some part of him was purely good, despite his sex, drug, and fraud addiction, my mother did the same. But that part of her was her motherhood. I could not leave a negative Yelp review to whatever she was cooking at her mental restaurant. She would yell at you every day about how dirty you are. You would hate it. She would make you cry, my mother said. Within seconds, I was back to tears, and this cry made my mother oddly happy. In perspective, my mother never asked why a 7 year old felt relieved by her death, and it is a painful truth that haunts me. When you have a parent that centers themselves and overwhelms you through abuse to center them as well. At 7, I was learning a truth that even as an adult I struggled to accept. My mother's passing would be the most devastating relief, the ending exhale to a relationship that breathed complications and cruelty and thrived only when I became so simple I might as well have been erased. All right, let's heal. Let's discuss. So, we were driving from Calle, which is one of the most beautiful towns in Puerto Rico, and I love Calle, and I love Gigi, and I loved being with her. Like she was just really, really fun and looked like me. Like, my family for the most part was short, brown, and extremely waifish, like very, very thin, very, very Taino features. And Gigi was like, I think we were born 6 feet tall. And she was big and she was robust and she was loud and funny. And I was loud and I was funny. And it was nice to be with somebody that was owning the fact that they were undeniable, owning the fact that they couldn't be missed, owning the fact that no matter how small they tried to make themselves, somehow they were going to land big. Because I really didn't have that. I think for my mother, behaving small was behaving well, not trying to, stir up anybody's pot, but finding that just your existence stirred. So, like, be smaller, smaller, smaller. And it was just relieving to be with somebody who didn't want me to be small and wasn't either. So we were driving back from Gigi's, and my mother said, she had watched this like sad movie, and she said, "Oh, if I die, you go with Gigi because you always want to put your child with somebody who's like you." And I started dancing. I'm gonna be honest. I was 7, and I remember being like, "Yeah, buddy, only dun, dun. I love it when you call me Big Papa." I was going off. I think I might have been the first twerker, honestly. I was so excited, completely mentally skipping the fact that in order for me to get to that joy, my mother had to pass. Like, it didn't conceptualize to me that she had to die. I just thought of like, oh my God, I'm going to move in with Gigi and we're going to have a blast. And my mother was so hurt, so hurt. Even as a 7-year old, I know, when you have a parent who's very critical and very strict and very controlling, you learn to understand their mood shifts. What you don't understand is whether, or at least you don't understand until you grow up, is that their mood shifts sometimes aren't genuine. They are manipulative. And you don't know whether and at that moment, my mother was just angry, like could just combust. At that moment, it was genuine hurt. Like I was like, oh, snap. Like, I think I genuinely hurt my mommy. And I felt really bad and confused because there was this part of me of like, I don't want to hurt you, but I would really love that Gigi sleepover. God, she cooks good. Children are so basic. And what I love about them and what is so painful in terms of complicated life and upbringings is that I don't know. I remember in philosophy class we talked about nurture versus nature and whether a bad child exists, an evil child exists, and I don't know. I was one of the people that argued against it. Now, in experiencing my own life, I mean, I'm like, I can't do that so easily, right? I can't say, oh, yeah, sure, no evil exists. No, 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 no. It exists. And I think for me, I, oh my God, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. So much of my life was about shame and guilt and malice and the feeling like you were always doing wrong and being told something was off. And it was just nice to envision a life where there was no guilt, where there wasn't shame, there wasn't accusations, there wasn't blame. There was just ease and hope for tomorrow and breath and oxygen. And for my mother, there wasn't exactly like that's suspicious that my 7-year-old feels relief by my potential passing. It was just, how dare you? Like, how dare you not appreciate me? How dare you not love me? And I really do mean this. I remember it just in my head being like, wow, that's going to be a blast. Like, not exactly understanding the ends to the means, right? Or the means to the end. And it's something that I think it was Sharon Stone who was talking about her mother's passing, and Rita Moreno talked about her husband's passing. It's really difficult to grieve complicated relationships when they physically end. I think for my father, I don't know if his death, if it already happened, probably it's happening soon, would actually affect me because this was somebody who we didn't have a complicated relationship. My father was 100% evil, wanted to be, successfully was. And at best, what complicated my relationship with him was how he complicated my relationship with others. Like, everybody always took his side. Everybody protected him because, in perspective, I offered people love. My father offered people shame. And he understood that people protect their shame. If he put you in a position where you would look like a freaking idiot, or potentially lose more by saying that he was making you lose, everybody sided with him. I was just offering love. And I think him leaving my life, that felt like just pure relief because he wasn't fun or charming. He was a maniac that wanted to be a maniac to me because he could be great to others. You know, he knew when kind manipulation, how to be kind to get what he wanted. Um, Whereas with my mom, I'm an adult now. I'm an adult that is healing. I'm an adult that is emotionally stabilizing and mentally stabilizing and kind of trying to figure out whether it is possible for me to even want or fathom a relationship that doesn't have me kind of centering the person. Because when I look at a lot of my relationships, and I spoke about this before, I do feel we either, for people who had, traumatized upbringings or really immature parents, especially emotionally immature, they kind of enter relationships either A, looking for a parent and saying that they want a partner who takes care of them, who loves them, who protects them, who makes them feel safe and protected. What they're really asking is for what their parents never gave them. The flip side of that is that you could also be more like me, where I find myself kind of offering people the opportunity for me to be their parent partner, for me to be the one that kind of takes care of them and makes all their dreams come true and makes them feel really good about themselves. And I I have never been in a relationship that didn't somehow, by the end of it, overwhelm me and erase me and make me feel really ashamed and confused as to who I was in the relationship, because it always ended with, you're not that great, and you think I'm malicious towards you, but you're not that kind. It always ended with somebody, like with the producer who stole my work, like with my ex who called me, I went from beautiful to fat and ugly within months. It always ended with them humiliating me and me wondering, genuinely so, whether I deserved it. How did I go from God to a fucking goyle? That's what I want to know. What's a goyle, by the way? I have no idea what that is. I just invented that. Anyway, and Rita Moreno was talking about how when her husband passed, she felt relief. Sharon Stone was talking about this kind of constant grief of knowing you yourself will pass away, craving a paternal love, craving a maternal love, understanding you never learned it. At best, you were this person's partner. They were never your parent. You were their protector. You were their guide, which is why a lot of my relationships, I've been a parent since I was born. And I think what makes me sad and sometimes really resentful about my upbringing is that the idea of falling in love really feels impossible to me. It feels like I'm going to fall in work. The idea of being a mother and kind of subconsciously or consciously, I will never know with my mother, destroying someone's self esteem and saying it's to protect them. It makes me so sad to know that despite wanting to be a good person, despite being a good person to others, that I could have a shadow and never even realize it, or never even heal it, or never even think that it is dark. And that was the thing about my parents. My parents were trauma victims that, particularly with my father, were deeply traumatizing. And I think what was so scary about having so many toxic relationships, particularly with narcissists, is that if there's one thing a narcissist is going to make you feel, it's that you're the narcissist. They will never show up for you. They will steal from you. They will lie about you. They will gossip about you. And then they will act like you were a bitch just for saying they did it. And, when I went no contact with my mother, I just needed space. And she really did everything to hurt me with that. Like, you know, particularly not telling me my grandmother passed. And there was such a vindictiveness, and my mother never understood space and boundaries, and that you don't have to save somebody. You can just enjoy them. You don't have to fix them. You don't have to tell them they have wounds that maybe don't even exist. You can just love them. And it's why I'm so determined to just let the past go, because I will never fully know if I did that to somebody. What if I know the exes that were really bad, were really cruel, but now I look back at some of them and I'm like, maybe I was overwhelming. Maybe I was, I was trying to heal you and you were telling me I just want to date you. And what sucks is I'm in this weird bridge of kind of ruminating over my past, ruminating over my parents' relationship with me and how it reflected in so many of my past ones. And just this feeling of, I would hate to leave this earth never knowing what a true, healthy, loving relationship was. I think the best relationship I ever had was with my grandmother. And even that could be tricky. And I think it was good because of the same thing with Gigi, where uh, we had similar personalities. We liked each other. And I think that blocked a lot of, the trauma malice, the traumalis, I'm going to call it, that could come when you think healing is just about having fun and then nosediving into people's wounds when you get a chance. And it scares me because I would be lying if I said I haven't done that to one person. I would be lying if I said that I didn't realize I was doing that to one person. And if I never have another relationship and I spend the rest of my life just loving me, hey, but I never learn what it is to love yourself with somebody who loves you, I would be really sad. And that is a resentment I don't know yet how to erase because that was my parents' fault. So check out deandrewmusicall.com for daddy recovery episodes and my reviews. Check out How to Dean on all music platforms and follow me on TikTok. Deandra Reviews It All on IG, Daddy Recovery on TikTok. Yay!